All right, welcome to the definitive guide to upsizing in Etobicoke. You've probably clicked on this video because you are thinking of moving up the property ladder and want to know what are the 5 most expensive mistakes upsizers make, and more importantly, how to avoid them. We're going to jump right into that, but first, my name is Adriano Aldini. I'm a real estate agent with eXp Brokerage, and I've lived and worked in Etobicoke for over 35 years, helping move up buyers find their next home using my unique understanding and knowledge of the wonderful neighborhoods that make up this Toronto suburb. This expertise has helped my clients make informed and timely decisions, which their future selves are extremely grateful for. Before we jump in, you will have also received my comprehensive neighborhood guide, which takes all the stress out of trying to figure out what are the best ranked public and Catholic elementary and secondary schools, what neighborhoods they're in, and what are the average prices in those neighborhoods. That guide is essentially designed to take all the guesswork of trying to figure out what neighborhoods would be great for your next move. Now, you may be currently in a condo or in your starter home and thinking of moving up the property ladder into your next home. Maybe it's because you need more space or you need a home office to call your own, or maybe because your family has outgrown your current property. Whatever the reasons you may have for moving up the property ladder, my experience has shown me that regardless of your reasons, the mistakes upsizers make all fall into the same categories, which we're going to dive into right now. Expensive mistake number 1, not understanding the current real estate market. This is probably the most common mistake that I encounter when working with upsizers, in that they get, super enthusiastic and excited and all caught up in the prospect of what a new property, a new address is going to do for their lifestyle and their family. And that's all good and well, but it's critical that you become aware of what the current market conditions are, both in your existing area and in your desired area. You're going to want to get educated on current pricing and what are comparables of the types of properties that you're looking to get into. What are they selling for? Now, a common mistake people make is trying to time the market. Well, what does that mean? Well, timing the market means that if prices are rising, you want to get in before prices peak. It's, there's the fear of missing out, and people often rush in to make property purchases for fear that eventually they won't be able to afford. Conversely, when prices are dropping, people want to wait until the very market bottom or until prices bottom out in order to make a purchase. Now, on paper, this sounds great, but the reality is it's a fool's errand, because not even the most seasoned real estate experts have a high prediction of market cycles. They do not know where the top is. Nobody knows when the bottom is. It's essentially a fool's errand in trying to guess that. More importantly, what upsizers should be asking themselves is upsizing realistic for me right now? You're going to want to make that move when you're ready to change lifestyles and when your finances can afford to do so, not based on what the market is doing in any short-term cycle. Remember, upsizing is a long-term decision. So you're going to be making this purchase for the next 10 to 15 years, most likely, if not longer. And it doesn't matter what the market will do in the interim. The market will fluctuate. It'll go up, it'll go down. The most important factor is getting in the neighborhood that you want to be in a property that makes sense for you. Another issue is there's a lot of opportunities that currently exist that you may not know about. Again, you don't know what you don't know. So, you need to analyze the opportunities in the market. Are there private sales? Are there off-market listings? What are the distressed sales looking like? Are there a lot of power of sales, or are there more power of sales coming up? These are all things that a seasoned realtor will help you sort of dive into and dissect, what are the current opportunities in the market that I don't necessarily know about because, they're not publicly advertised or they're not on the MLS. So that's expensive mistake number 1. Expensive mistake number 2, not having a plan to execute. It's easy to spend countless hours online searching and dreaming of your next property and what that's going to do for you and your lifestyle. But a far more critical task is to have a plan. And you're going to want to start the process early. You're going to start by taking time to learn the market value of your home and your desired next home. And then you're going to need to do some financial planning. What are you planning on spending versus what are you going to net on your home? Can you afford to upsize right now? That's a very big question. You're going to need to determine the sale proceeds from your current home less any debts. So you're going to want to speak with your mortgage broker or your lender to determine, a clear budget and what's the feasibility of upsizing right now or in the near future. And you're going to want to start this process early so as not to waste a lot of time, again, searching online for something that may not in the end be even doable for you. You're also going to want to be patient and understand the process that, upsizing takes time. You need to find the right neighborhood. You need to determine, which school zones, if you have children, and, what school zones you want them to be in. And you need to find a home that fits all those criteria that land in your budget. Inventory and market conditions also play a role, so you need to be flexible, and most importantly, you need to be patient. you're going to want to interview realtors who specialize in helping move up buyers in your desired area to determine how to best maximize your value. Experienced realtors who have helped families, move up the property ladder will have a lot of knowledge and experience in order to help you, navigate some of those easy pitfalls that, buyers can fall into and sellers can fall into. So the next question you're going to need to ask yourself is, where to move. Do you have a good understanding of your desired areas? Do you know the neighborhoods? Do you know the school zones? What are the amenities in those neighborhoods? What are the demographics? I've created a comprehensive neighborhood guide which breaks down the best ranked schools, the best ranked neighborhoods, and what the average prices are in those neighborhoods. That's a PDF that you should have already received. If you haven't received it, just reach out to me and I'd be happy to send that to you. So, you need to have that conversation. Location versus lifestyle. Can we afford to move into the neighborhood that we want? Or should we, maybe choose a slightly smaller home or one that, isn't our dream home just to get into the neighborhood that we want to be in? Or conversely, would we rather have the perfect home and maybe, compromise a little bit on which neighborhood pocket in Etobicoke it is? Again, these are questions that only you can answer. And by determining what your priorities are, that answer will easily be flushed out. So again, perfect property versus perfect neighborhood. What are you really willing to compromise on? A big part of having a plan to execute is knowing if you're going to buy your new home first or sell your existing property prior to purchasing. You're going to want to understand the pros and cons of each, which we're going to dive into right now. And this decision that you make will have a lot of factors that go into it, such as what are your personal risk tolerances? What is the market doing at this particular moment in time? So are homes selling quickly or are they taking longer to sell? Are there multiple offers happening in your desired market or in your current market? All these factors are going to help shape your decision. So what are the pros of selling your home first? Well, when you sell your home first, you know exactly what the proceeds are from your sale and then how much you can go out and spend on your next home. You will have discussed this thoroughly with your broker or your lender, so you have a clear understanding of exactly how much you can go out and spend on your new home, given that you have a firm agreement of purchase and sale. The other positive of selling your home first prior to buying your next home is that let's say you're unable to sell your home for the amount of money in which you need to upsize. Well, it's simple. Then you just take your home off the market and stay where you are because you haven't already committed to another purchase that you can't afford now because you were forced to sell for less than anticipated. So you've avoided putting yourself in an unnecessarily risky situation. The cons to selling first are that you now may have put yourself in a little bit of a time crunch because you need to find a property before your sale of your existing home closes. And unless you have another residence or shelter to move into, if you can't find a home to purchase in your desired neighborhood prior to your existing home closing, then you're going to either need to rent in the interim or find shelter that can house you and your family. This comes with its own set of expenses and inconveniences because uprooting your family and finding a dwelling that's suitable, especially if you have young kids, finding a temporary dwelling or residence that's close to their schools or activities or your workplace can be very, very stressful. Plus, you're adding on the fact that you still need to go out and shop and find that perfect upsized home. The pros of buying a home first is that you know for certain that you have a property to move into and you won't be homeless for an interim period. The other benefit is that you have the luxury of time to search for that property. You aren't forced into committing to buy a home that you don't absolutely love because you haven't sold your existing home yet. So you have all the time in the world. You can take the time to find the right neighborhood, find the right property in that neighborhood, and negotiating the price that you want and hopefully that you can afford. And then at that point, you can take the time to turn around and sell your own home. Now, the downsides of purchasing first is that you'll be under pressure to sell your existing home relatively quickly in order to generate the proceeds that you need in order to pay for the purchase that you already made. Now, if you don't sell for the amount of money that you expected, you could be in a shortfall and you're going to have to make up those funds one way or another in order to facilitate the purchase of your next home. So you could run into the risk of, let's say, possibly defaulting if for whatever reason you're unable to sell your home for the amount of money you need and you can't make up the delta between what you need to spend on your next purchase and the proceeds that you got for your existing purchase. You could run the risk of being sued by the sellers of the property that you already committed to purchasing. Now, in markets that are very competitive, it's often advisable to purchase your next home before selling your existing property because it's going to be a lot more challenging to find that next move-up home and you know that within a relatively short period of time, because homes are selling quickly, you will be able to sell your home, hopefully for the proceeds that you expected. So it's important to analyze the current market and to get a good understanding of the types of properties in your area that are selling and for how much and how quickly they're selling. And you're going to want to be realistic with your expected sale price. So get clear on your pricing and marketing strategy to sell your home. And you're going to want to align yourself with a realtor who has a killer marketing plan. So they're going to figure out, who is your ideal buyer? How are we going to target ads to that buyer? The goal of your realtor is to generate maximum exposure to the largest range of qualified buyers. And if you're aligned with a realtor who has a killer marketing plan, they are going to do expensive mistake number 3, neglecting your current home. You may have your eyes and attention almost entirely set on your new home purchase, but you can't forget about your current home. The home buying process can take up to months or sometimes even years. And in that time, you'll still need to keep up with the maintenance and other upkeep costs on your current property. If you want to sell your home and realize the maximum value that it can attain, you're going to have to keep it in good shape. So let's go through, how to generate maximum returns when selling. So first off, you're going to want to evaluate what type of property you're bringing to market, what condition is it in, what's the location, property type, does it have any unique features, etc. This will all go into factoring who is your potential buyer. Are you going to be targeting rehabbers, contractors, builders, investors, or end users like first-time home buyers and young professional? This will dictate how the property is marketed. So evaluating the current condition of your home, you need to compare that to what has been selling in your area. Have homes that are of a comparable size and structure, have they been renovated? Are they half renoed? Have they been dated, like renoed a while ago? Are they still in original condition? What has been selling in your area that's comparable to you? How long has it taken to sell? And how much has it sold for? Now, home maintenance and repairs, cosmetic versus structural. My advice is always to focus on the little things that add up to big returns. You're going to want to put the least amount of money in order to extract the most amount of money out. So number 1, it's critical for the home to appear well maintained, even if it's dated. So even if you don't have, a contemporary looking home, that doesn't matter. The fact that it just needs to be clean and it needs to be bright. So how do we do that? We suggest that you put a fresh coat of paint, you change the light fixtures, or at the very least, you change the light bulbs and make sure that the lighting is consistent throughout. You're going to want to maybe, change the curtains or put some new window finishes. You're going to want to maybe change the hardware on your doors, maybe clean the grout. Again, make sure the house looks spotless. You're going to want to pay some attention to your curb appeal as well, because first impressions are critical. So when people drive up to the house, it needs to look clean and well maintained. Regardless if it's dated, buyers will have already made an assumption of what your house looks like and what your house is all about prior to even stepping foot into it, based on what it looks like from the outside. So give yourself the best chance at selling for the highest amount of money by putting a little bit of money into it. Now, should you renovate or sell as is? Again, this goes back to who is your potential buyer. Or if the ideal buyer is going to be a builder or an investor, then really there is very little value in putting a lot of money into renovating or gutting the house only to sell. There's more important things to look at. So what you should look at is what do you need to fix and what not to fix. Selling as is sometimes nets the highest return weighted against the cost and time to reno. So you're basically selling on potential versus its current state. What works better for you? Again, that goes back to who are we targeting? So, doing a kitchen renovation that costs, $40,000 to $60,000 to $70,000, while that's good and well, you may not extract all of that dollar for dollar value out, depending on which type of buyers you're targeting. So it's very important to know you start with who is your buyer, and then you work down from there. Should you stage your home? This is critical. This is something that we always do. We stage the home to make it look its best. So by staging the home, again, we put a fresh coat of paint, we clean the windows, we make the home look as clean and as bright as possible, we declutter. And staged homes sell on approximate for 6% more than non-staged homes. So really not a lot of investment is needed to stage a home. You're looking at maybe $5,000 to $6,000. And more often than not, that comes back to you when you sell. So the other thing you're going to want to look into is what are the current market trends that impact buyer sentiments right now? So, what's happening right now in the market that's going to impact how buyers view your property? Are interest rates rising or are they falling? What are the average price trends in your neighborhood? Are people, what's the employment market look like? Are people losing their jobs? Is there a wide swath of, layoffs happening? All of that is going to factor into current market sentiment, which then factors into how you market and who you market your home to. Expensive mistake number 4, miscalculating your needs. How much extra space do you really need? It's essential to be realistic about this and not get suckered into focusing on larger and more expensive homes than you truly require. You're going to want to take a current assessment of your home and decide what's needed and what can be improved. Maybe you've been using the living room section as a home office and you want a dedicated office space. Maybe you want an extra bedroom for your growing family or for when relatives or friends come over to stay. These are all things that, you need to figure out what exactly do you need. Now, the other factor is your move up purchase? Is this a long-term move? Are you buying your forever home? Or is this a medium-term move that, maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, you'll probably be upsizing again or downsizing into a different property. So you need to determine, is this next move, how long-term is this going to be? Because that will then factor into how much space you actually need. Is your family going to grow exponentially, over that time frame? Is it going to get smaller? What's going to happen? That will determine how much extra space you need. So it's important to conduct a space audit. Like, do you need more furniture? Determine the cost for new items and factor this all into your financial decisions. Determining wants versus needs for space and understanding the responsibilities that come with more space is important because, looking at homes that are bigger is all great and well, but there's a lot more work and a lot more costs in maintaining those homes. So while there are things you might need more space, there's also things that you can do without. Once you've upsized, don't rush into filling all that space with new furniture because it might take a little while to get used to the new surroundings and decide what is the best use for them. Focus on what's practical, focus on everyday living needs before thinking about setups for special occasions and for having a bunch of people over. It's important to be realistic again about how much space you actually need. Again, other expenses that are associated with bigger homes that people often neglect are, extra property taxes. It's a higher property tax bill that typically comes with bigger homes. You're going to have higher heating and cooling bills, higher maintenance costs. Your insurance premiums are going to be higher. So these are all things that you need to factor into when calculating, what are the needs for your new space. And unfortunately, it's an expensive mistake that a lot of upsizers make in that they miscalculate these needs and end up buying either more home than what they need or they spend more than what they actually need because it's sort of a want. By conducting a space audit and determining, what is the differences between what you currently have now and what you need will go a long way in making the right upsize move. Mistake number 5, underestimating financing and closing costs. Look, it's easy to spend hours online looking through listings and going to homes and dreaming of what your new home is going to look like. But a far more unpleasant task that many upsizers try to avoid is the question of mortgage financing. What can you qualify for and what can you actually afford versus what you ideally want? Have you been pre-approved for a mortgage? What does your credit look like? Leaving these critical decisions until the later stages of your upsizing journey typically results in a lot of wasted time looking at listings that you couldn't have otherwise afforded in the first place. So face the music now, see what kind of loan you can qualify for. Besides, getting a pre-approval letter will go a long way when it comes time to putting an offer on a house. Another big mistake that upsizers make is not shopping around to find out what financing options are available to them. Fortunately, you are likely in a far better financial situation now than you were when you were a first-time home buyer, and all that equity that you've built up can make a powerful asset when you choose to sell your home to fund the purchase of your new home. So be sure to shop around for a mortgage because if you end up with a higher interest rate than you could have otherwise gotten, you'll essentially end up paying, thousands of dollars over the term of that loan. Another big problem and another big mistake that upsizers tend to make is underestimating closing costs. Now, the main components of closing costs are probably comprised of land transfer tax and legal fees. You're going to want to ballpark minimum 2 to 4% of the cost of your purchase. In Toronto, if you're looking to upsize in Etobicoke, the land transfer tax is double because you're paying both the municipal portion as well as the provincial portion. So on the sale of a $1 million property, the land transfer tax is about $18,000, but given that the municipality tax on double that rate, you're looking at about $36,000 in land transfer fees on a $1 million purchase. On top of that, your legal costs are going to be about, $2,000 to $3,000. Those are, your main closing costs. In addition, you also have to look at, moving costs. Are there going to be storage costs that you have to pay? Because, you might have a gap between when the sale of your home closes and the new purchase, when you can take possession of your new property. So there's a lot of fees that go into closing costs that you need to be aware of and, budget for. So in the end, underestimating financing and closing costs can create quite a bit of a surprise, because you're going to want to ballpark the fees that you're going to have to pay upon closing, and you don't want those to surprise you and blindside you.